The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chamber for the third time that month. Taman stood at the central podium, his blue skin pale with exhaustion. Around him sat representatives from 40 different species, all watching the holographic display with growing horror. Another star system had fallen. The images showed what remained of the Kelter system, where 5 planets once orbited a yellow sun. Now only debris remained. The Vectar swarm had stripped everything. Worlds reduced to husks. Billions of lives simply gone. Consumed. Taman pressed a button and the display changed. Red markers spread across the galactic map like a disease. 12 systems lost in 6 months. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The swarm was accelerating. "We have tried everything," Taman said, his voice steady despite the fear in his hearts. "Our best weapons barely slow them down. When we destroy one bioship, 3 more take its place. They adapt to our strategies within hours. Every battle costs us more than we can afford." A Lumari elder named Velka raised one of her 4 arms. Her crystalline body reflected the red warning lights. "What are our current military projections?" Taman did not want to answer that question. He had reviewed the data 100 times, hoping for different results. "At current rates, the swarm will reach Council core worlds within 18 months. We estimate total collapse of organized resistance within 3 years." Silence fell across the chamber. 3 years. The Galactic Council had existed for over 50,000 years. The idea that it could end so quickly seemed impossible. An Oran diplomat named Jiwoo spoke next. Her telepathic abilities let her sense the emotions in the room. Fear, desperation, helplessness. "We need new options, something the swarm has never encountered before." "There are no new options," a Nethrai commander said bitterly. "We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy. If we cannot stop them, who can?" Velka moved to the center of the chamber. Her age gave her authority that few could challenge. She had served on the council for 3 centuries. There might be one possibility, something we locked away long ago. She activated her personal data crystal. A file appeared on the main display. The header read, "Restricted Access, Species Index 2847, Designation, Humanity." Jiwoo leaned forward. "I have never heard of the species. Why is the file restricted?" "Because we were afraid," Velka said simply. 300 years ago, our exploration ships discovered a species on a planet they call Earth. We made first contact. What we found terrified us so much that we quarantined their entire star system." Taman accessed the file with his command codes. He began reading the first contact reports. His expression changed with each page. "This cannot be accurate. No species behaves this way." "I assure you the reports are accurate," Velka said. "I was part of the original contact team. I saw them with my own eyes." The file contained incident reports, psychological profiles, and tactical analyses. Jiwoo read through them with growing disbelief. The humans had been rated as extremely dangerous despite having primitive technology. The reasons listed seemed bizarre. "Excessive violence?" Jiwoo read aloud. "These humans fight each other constantly. They have wars over resources, ideas, even imaginary beings. They create weapons specifically designed to kill their own kind." "Keep reading," Velka said quietly. "Irrational tactical creativity," Taman continued. "Human military strategies often ignore logical survival parameters. They use deception, sacrifice, and unpredictable aggression. During our observation period, we witnessed humans intentionally destroying their own assets to achieve strategic goals." A video file played. It showed human soldiers during one of their planetary conflicts. The soldiers were pinned down by enemy fire. The logical response would be retreat. Instead, one human ran directly at the enemy position while others provided covering fire. The human was hit multiple times but managed to throw an explosive device before falling. The explosion destroyed the enemy position. The chamber watched in stunned silence. "They sacrificed themselves," a council member whispered. "For what purpose?" "To protect their companions," Velka explained. "Humans form intense social bonds. They will die for strangers if they perceive a shared cause. We documented hundreds of similar incidents." Jiwoo found another report. "It says here that humans have a psychological trait called spite. They will accept personal harm if it means harming an enemy. This makes no evolutionary sense." "Nothing about humans makes evolutionary sense," Velka agreed. "Their planet is a death world by our standards. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, toxic plants. deadly diseases. Humans evolved to survive by being more stubborn and violent than anything else on their world. Taemin found the final assessment report. He read the conclusion with a sense of unreality. Recommendation: avoid all contact with humanity. Species demonstrates dangerous combination of high intelligence and low survival instinct. Quarantine indefinitely. Potential threat level: catastrophic. We locked them away, Velka said, because we believed they would be too dangerous to integrate into council space. We were afraid of what they might do. And now you want to unleash them on the swarm? Taemin asked. I want to give us a chance at survival, Velka replied. The swarm is everything we feared about humans, but worse. Perhaps we need something equally terrifying on our side. The debate lasted for hours. Many council members were horrified at the suggestion. Humans were unpredictable, violent, barely controllable. What if they turned on the council after defeating the swarm? Others argued that extinction was worse than any risk humans might pose. At least with humans, they had a chance. Finally, Velka called for a vote. The chamber fell silent as each representative made their choice. The holographic display counted the results. The motion passed by a margin of 3 votes. Velka turned to Taemin. You will lead the delegation. Take a diplomatic vessel to Earth. Make contact with human leadership. Explain the situation. Ask for their help, and if they refuse, Taemin asked. Then we face extinction, Velka said simply. But I do not think they will refuse. For all their violence and chaos, humans have one trait that gives me hope. What trait? Humans hate bullies, Velka said. They cannot resist fighting for the weak, even when it is not their battle. It is both their greatest strength and their most dangerous flaw. Taemin prepared his ship for the journey. He selected a crew of diplomats and xenobiologists. They studied the human files obsessively, trying to understand what they would face. As his vessel jumped to faster-than-light travel, Taemin looked at the restricted file one more time. 300 years ago, the Council had locked these creatures away because they were too dangerous. Now they were going to open that lock and hope they could control what came out. The journey to Earth would take 2 weeks. Taemin spent every moment reviewing human history, culture, and psychology. The more he learned, the more concerned he became. Humans had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. Wars that killed millions, weapons that could crack planets, environmental disasters caused by their own industrial processes. Yet somehow they always survived, always adapted, always pushed forward. They were the most self-destructive species in the known galaxy. They were also the most resilient. As the ship approached the Sol system, Taemin wondered if he was making the biggest mistake in Council history, or if he was about to save it. The answer would reveal itself soon enough. Taemin's diplomatic vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Immediately, every sensor on his ship screamed warnings. His navigation officer looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, we are being tracked by over 300 weapon systems." Taemin had expected primitive defenses. The human file said they barely had space travel 300 years ago. What he saw now made his blood run cold. Orbital stations surrounded Earth like a metal shell. Weapons platforms drifted between planets. Ships patrolled in organized formations. This was not a primitive civilization. This was a fortress. "Incoming transmission," his communications officer announced. A human face appeared on the screen. Female. Dark eyes that seemed to calculate a dozen different ways to kill him. She wore a military uniform covered in symbols Taemin did not recognize. "Unknown vessel. You have entered restricted space. State your identity and purpose," Taemin composed himself. "I am Ambassador Taemin of the Galactic Council. We come in peace. We request permission to speak with your leadership." The human woman's expression did not change. "Galactic Council. The same organization that quarantined us 3 centuries ago?" "Yes," Taemin admitted, "though I was not involved in that decision." "Convenient," the human said. "You will follow our escort ships to Unity 7 station. Do not deviate from the flight path. Do not activate any weapons. Do not scan our defenses. Understood?" "Understood." 6 human fighter craft appeared around his vessel. They moved with precision that impressed even Taemin's experienced pilot. The escort guided them through the defensive grid to a massive space station orbiting Earth. Unity 7 was larger than most Council military bases. Through the viewports, Taemin saw dozens of ships being constructed in automated shipyards. Fighters launched and landed in constant cycles. This was not just a station. It was a military stronghold. The docking procedure was efficient and professional. When Taimin and his small diplomatic team exited their ship, armed guards waited for them. The soldiers wore powered armor and carried weapons that looked disturbingly advanced. The woman from the screen approached. Up close, she was shorter than Taimin, but radiated an intensity that made him want to step back. Colonel Da-un Kim, she introduced herself. Commander of Orbital Defense. Follow me. They walked through corridors filled with activity. Human crew members moved with purpose. Cargo was loaded and unloaded. Soldiers trained in combat simulators. Everything spoke of a civilization preparing for war. Da-un led them to a conference room. Inside waited another human. This one wore a scientist's coat instead of a uniform. She had gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. This is Dr. Bora Shin, Da-un said, our lead xenobiologist. She specializes in studying species that think we are primitive. The subtle insult was clear. Taimin chose to ignore it. Thank you for meeting with us, Taimin began. The Galactic Council faces an existential threat. We come to ask for your help. Help, Da-un repeated the word like it tasted bad. You locked us in our own system for 300 years. Now you want help? I understand your anger, Taimin said carefully. The decision to quarantine humanity was made out of fear, but circumstances have changed. Show him, Bora said quietly. Da-un activated a holographic display. It showed the same galactic map Taimin had presented to the Council. The red markers indicating swarm conquests, the projections of future expansion. We know about your swarm problem, Bora said. We have been monitoring Council space for decades. Your security is not as good as you think. Taimin felt a chill. You have been spying on us? You quarantined us without trial, Da-un said flatly. Did you expect us to sit quietly? We sent stealth probes. We intercepted communications. We watched and learned. When the swarm appeared, we knew about it before most Council members. Then you understand the danger, Taimin said. We do, Bora agreed. The Vectar swarm is a biological nightmare. Hive mind rapid adaptation, exponential reproduction. Left unchecked, it will consume this entire region of space, which is why we need your help, Taimin pressed. Our military strategies have failed. The swarm adapts too quickly. We need something different. Something unpredictable, Da-un laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You want us to be unpredictable. You quarantined us for being too violent, too aggressive, too willing to sacrifice for strangers. Now you want us to use those exact traits to save you. Yes, Taimin said simply. There was no point in denying the irony. And what do we get in return? Da-un asked. The gratitude of the Council, Taimin began. Not enough, Bora interrupted. We have specific demands. Full Council membership with all associated rights. Access to your technology archives. Permanent seats on military and scientific committees. Removal of all quarantine restrictions. Recognition as a sovereign species with equal standing. Taimin felt his stomach drop. I do not have authority to grant those terms. Then get authority, Da-un said. Because those are our conditions. We are not interested in being your hired mercenaries. If we fight as equals. The Council will never agree to this, Taimin protested. Then the Council will die, Da-un said, without emotion. We have run the calculations. At current rates, the swarm will reach our system within 5 years. We can defend ourselves for a time, but eventually they will overwhelm us too. Better to fight them now while we have allies. You would fight anyway? Taimin asked, confused. Even without our agreement? Bora smiled. Did you not read your own files? Humans hate bullies. The swarm is the biggest bully in the galaxy. Of course we are going to fight them. Then why demand terms at all? Because we are tired of being treated as dangerous animals. Da-un said, her voice hard. For 3 centuries your Council decided what we could and could not do. Where we could and could not go. That ends now. We will fight the swarm. The question is whether you want us as allies or as an independent force that does not answer to Council authority. Taimin understood the threat. An uncontrolled human military operating in Council space could be as dangerous as the swarm itself. I will contact the Council, he said finally. The emergency session lasted 6 hours. Taimin stood before the Council and presented humanity's demands. The chamber erupted in argument. Some called the terms outrageous. Others said they had no choice. Velka finally called for order. We must decide. Grant humanity's demands or face the swarm alone. The vote was closer than before, but it passed. Taman returned to Unity 7 with the Council's agreement. Dayun accepted with a nod that showed no satisfaction. Only grim determination. We will need 3 days to mobilize our fleets, she said. Dr. Shin will coordinate with your scientists. I will work with your military commanders. 3 days? Taman asked. We expected weeks of preparation. We have been preparing for 300 years, Bora said. Humanity does not sit idle. While you debated whether we were dangerous, we built defenses. We developed weapons. We trained soldiers. We were ready for the day someone came calling. Ready for war, Taman said quietly. Ready for survival, Dayun corrected. There is a difference. Over the next 3 days, Taman watched in amazement as human civilization transformed before his eyes. Civilian ships were converted to military transports. Factories that made consumer goods switched to producing weapons. Millions of humans volunteered for military service. He met with human commanders and was disturbed by their casual discussion of acceptable casualties. They planned operations assuming significant losses and simply factored that into their strategies. He attended briefings where human tacticians proposed plans that violated every principle of Council military doctrine: suicide runs, false retreats, sacrificial diversions. The humans discussed these options without hesitation. Bora found him in an observation lounge on the 3rd day. Outside the viewport, human warships gathered in formation. 47 vessels preparing to jump to Council space. You are afraid of us, Bora said. It was not a question. Yes, Taman admitted. Good, Bora replied. Fear keeps you careful. Just remember that we are on your side. Everything we do, every sacrifice we make will be to stop the swarm, not to threaten the Council. And after the swarm is defeated, Bora smiled. Then we will finally get to explore the galaxy properly. Meet new species. Share knowledge. Build alliances. Humans are not monsters, Ambassador. We are survivors. We do terrible things when necessary, but we prefer peace when possible. I hope you are right, Taman said. So do we, Bora admitted, because once we start down this path, there is no going back. The galaxy is about to see what humans can do when we stop holding back. Admiral Jae Sung's voice echoed through the station's communication system. All vessels prepare for jump. Destination, Praxis 4. Estimated time of arrival, 6 hours. This is humanity's first step into a larger galaxy. Make it count. The human fleet activated their jump drives. Space rippled and tore, one by one. The warships vanished into faster-than-light travel. Taman watched them go and wondered if the Council had just saved itself or doomed the entire galaxy. Only time would tell. But the humans were coming, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Vectar swarm descended on Praxis 4 like a living storm. Bioships the size of cities blocked out the sun. Smaller combat forms swarmed through space in numbers too vast to count. The planet below held 8 billion civilians desperately trying to evacuate. 3 Council fleets positioned themselves between the swarm and the evacuation ships. Admiral Krevnos of the Lumari commanded the defense. His crystalline body glowed with stress as he watched the tactical display. All ships maintain formation, he ordered. We must hold them for 6 more hours. The swarm hit them like a tidal wave. Bioships fired organic projectiles that dissolved shields on contact. Smaller forms latched onto Council vessels and began eating through the hulls. The swarm did not fight with tactics. They simply overwhelmed with numbers. Krevnos watched his fleet die ship by ship. They destroyed hundreds of swarm vessels, but thousands more replaced them. His tactical officer reported critical losses across all battle groups. Sir, we cannot hold. We need to retreat now or lose everything. Krevnos prepared to give the hardest order of his life. Retreat meant abandoning millions of civilians still on the planet. But staying meant losing the fleet and failing to save anyone. Before he could speak, his sensors officer shouted, "New contacts. Dropping out of jump space at coordinate 774. The human fleet materialized in the middle of the battle. 47 ships against thousands of swarm vessels. The odds were impossible. Krevnos opened a communication channel. Human fleet, this is Admiral Krevnos. You must retreat. The enemy numbers are too great, a human voice responded. Calm, almost casual. This is Admiral Jae Sung of the Terran fleet. We did not come here to retreat. All ships execute pattern Delta 9. Time to show these bugs what humans can do. The human fleet did not form a defensive line like Council doctrine demanded. Instead, they scattered in every direction. Ships broke formation and accelerated to speeds that should have torn them apart. It looked like chaos. Complete disorder. Then Krevnos saw the pattern. Each human ship targeted a different section of the swarm fleet. They moved in three-dimensional space using the full depth of the battlefield. Where Council ships stayed level and organized, human vessels dove, climbed, and spun. A destroyer called Relentless flew directly at a cluster of bioships. Captain Minji commanded from the bridge, her voice cutting through her crew's reports. All fighters launch. Point defense to maximum. Railguns to rapid fire. Let's give them hell. Fighters poured from the Relentless's launch bays. The small craft dove into the swarm formations, firing missiles and energy weapons at point-blank range. Losses were immediate and heavy. 20 fighters destroyed in the first minute. But the tactic worked. The swarm vessels focused on the fighters, leaving openings in their formation. The Relentless exploited every gap, its railguns punching through bioship hulls with kinetic force. "Captain, we have lost 30% of our fighter wings," the tactical officer reported. "Launch reserves," Minji ordered without hesitation. "Keep the pressure on." Krevnos watched in horror and fascination. The humans were trading lives for tactical advantage. They accepted casualties that would break Council morale and kept fighting harder. The human carrier Indomitable moved to the center of the battlefield. Admiral Jae-sung coordinated the entire fleet from its bridge. Unlike Council admirals who stayed safely in the rear, he placed his flagship where it could support every other vessel. "Captain Dong-hyun, take your strike group and hit their left flank," Jae-sung ordered. "Minji, keep pushing through their center. I want them confused and scattered." A human officer approached Jae-sung with a damage report. "Sir, the destroyer Defiant has lost main power. The cruiser Seoul has hull breaches on 3 decks. Casualties across the fleet exceed 200. "Acknowledged," Jae-sung said. "Order Defiant to fall back for repairs. Seoul continues mission. And someone get me a tactical update on that swarm command ship." Krevnos established a direct link to Jae-sung. "Admiral, your casualties are unsustainable. You must pull back." "We are just getting started," Jae-sung replied. "Your fleet is exhausted. Get your damaged ships to safety. We will hold the line." "Hold the line?" Krevnos could not believe what he was hearing. "There are 5,000 swarm vessels remaining. You have 47 ships. Then the odds are almost fair," Jae-sung said, and closed the channel. A human tactic emerged that Krevnos had never seen before. The humans called it wolf-pack hunting. 3 or 4 ships would target a single large bioship. They attacked from different angles simultaneously, overwhelming its defenses. The frigate Tiger led one such pack. Commander Hyun-soo coordinated with 2 other ships, timing their attacks to the second. "All ships mark your targets. Fire on my command. 3, 2, 1, execute." Missiles, railgun rounds, and energy weapons converged on one massive bioship. Its organic armor could not withstand the focused assault. The creature ship tore apart, spilling biological matter into space. "Next target," Hyun-soo ordered. "No rest, keep moving." But the swarm was learning. Bioships began moving in tighter formations. They adapted their tactics to counter human unpredictability. Smaller swarm vessels started sacrificing themselves to block human weapons fire. The hive mind was analyzing and adjusting. A human science officer named Yoon-ji noticed the pattern. She was young, barely out of the academy, assigned to the Indomitable's tactical analysis team. While everyone else watched the battle, she studied swarm communication signals. "Sir," she called to Admiral Jae-sung, "the swarm is using coordinated signal bursts before major tactical shifts. I think I can predict their movements." Jae-sung looked at her. "How confident are you?" 60%, maybe 70. "Good enough. Feed your predictions to the fleet. Let's use their adaptation against them." Yoon-ji worked frantically, translating swarm signals into tactical predictions. When the data flowed to human ships, captains began anticipating swarm movements. They positioned themselves seconds before attacks came. The tide of battle shifted again, but people were dying. The destroyer Brave took a direct hit from a bioship's acid weapon. The bridge section dissolved. 60 crew members died instantly. The surviving officers took command from auxiliary control and kept fighting. Commander Subin led Marine battalions on boarding operations. Human assault shuttles crashed directly onto bioship hulls. Marines in powered armor cut their way inside, fighting through acidic atmosphere and hostile creatures. Subin's team planted explosive charges in a bioship's neural center. The creatures inside attacked with claws and teeth. Her soldiers fought hand-to-hand when ammunition ran out. 12 Marines died securing the objective. Charges planted, Subin reported. 30 seconds to detonation. Everyone out now. Her team barely reached the shuttle before the bioship exploded from inside. One small victory among hundreds of struggles. The battle raged for 4 hours. Council ships under Krevnos rallied behind the human fleet. Inspired by human courage, they returned to the fight. Combined forces began pushing the swarm back. Finally, impossibly, the swarm retreated. Thousands of bioships withdrew, leaving fields of debris and dead vessels. The evacuation ships completed their rescue operations. 8 billion civilians had been saved. Admiral Jae-sung surveyed the damage. Casualty report. His first officer's voice was heavy. 6 ships heavily damaged. 273 crew members killed. 418 wounded. 21 fighters lost with their pilots. The numbers were devastating. But they had won. Krevnos brought his flagship alongside the Indomitable. His communication screen showed Jae-sung standing on his bridge, uniform torn and bloodied. "Thank you," Krevnos said simply. "You saved millions of lives today." "At significant cost," Jae-sung replied. "But that is what we do. We pay the price that needs paying." "Your tactics were extraordinary," Krevnos admitted. "Chaotic, illogical, yet somehow effective. I do not understand how you fight this way." "Because logic and order only work against logical and orderly opponents," Jae-sung explained. "The swarm has patterns, predictable responses. We disrupt those patterns by being unpredictable ourselves." "And the casualties? How do you accept such losses?" Jae-sung was quiet for a moment. "We don't accept them. We hate every death, every lost ship, every family that will receive bad news. But we refuse to let fear of loss prevent us from doing what is necessary." "Do you understand the difference?" Krevnos thought he did. Humans were not fearless. They felt every loss deeply. But they fought anyway. They sacrificed anyway. Because the alternative was worse. "The Council was right to fear you," Krevnos said. "But I am grateful you are on our side." After the communication ended, Jae-sung sat in his command chair and allowed himself one moment of exhaustion. Around him, his crew worked to repair damage and tend to wounded. Captain Minji's voice came through on a private channel. "Jae-sung, we lost a lot of good people today." "I know," he replied. "And we will lose more before this war ends. The swarm will not stop until we make them stop." "Can we win?" "We have to," Jae-sung said. "Because humanity does not know how to surrender. We only know how to fight until there is nothing left to fight for or nothing left to fight with. Today we proved we can hurt them. Tomorrow we prove we can beat them." The human fleet began repair operations while Council ships secured the system. The swarm's response was immediate and brutal. Within a week of the Praxis 4 defeat, they launched coordinated attacks on 6 different systems simultaneously. The message was clear. They would not be intimidated. Council High Command gathered in emergency session. Holographic displays showed all 6 battlefronts. Each system was under siege. Each faced overwhelming numbers. There were not enough ships to defend them all. Admiral Jae-sung stood before the Council military leaders and proposed something that made them question his sanity. "We split the fleet," he said simply. Krevnos objected immediately. "That violates every principle of strategic warfare. Divided forces are weak forces. The swarm will destroy us piece by piece. The swarm expects us to mass our ships and defend 1 or 2 systems." Jae-sung countered. "They are counting on predictable strategy. Instead, we hit them everywhere at once. Fast strikes, maximum damage. Then withdraw before they can respond." "You are describing raids, not a defensive strategy," another Council admiral protested. "Exactly," Jae-sung agreed. "Defense is not working. We need to take the fight to them. Make them react to us instead of the other way around." The Council admirals looked at each other. The plan was insane. It was also the only new idea anyone had offered. They approved it. The human fleet divided into 6 strike groups. Each group contained 7 or 8 ships supported by Council vessels. They jumped to different systems simultaneously, turning the 6 defensive battles into 6 aggressive raids. Captain Dong-hyun led Strike Group 3 deep into swarm-controlled territory. His mission was not to hold ground but to destroy swarm breeding facilities and supply nodes. "Hit and run. Strike and fade," His ships emerged from jump space directly over a swarm breeding world. The planet's surface crawled with biological growth. Thousands of new bioships were being spawned in massive organic structures. All ships target the breeding platforms, Dong Hyun ordered. We have 20 minutes before their fleet arrives. Make every shot count. The human ships opened fire with everything they had. Missiles rained down on the planet. Railguns carved through breeding structures. Energy weapons boiled away organic material. Swarm ships responded, rising from the planet's surface. Dong Hyun's vessels fought while maintaining bombardment. They took damage. Shields failed. Hull breaches occurred, but they kept firing. Captain, enemy fleet incoming. 3,000 vessels, his tactical officer reported. Time to go, Dong Hyun said calmly. All ships, jump coordinates uploaded. Execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1, jump. The human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel just as the swarm fleet arrived. Behind them, 2 breeding platforms burned. Thousands of developing bioships would never reach maturity. But Dong Hyun's ships were damaged. His crews were exhausted. They had been operating at maximum combat readiness for 3 weeks straight. Soldiers slept at their stations. Engineers worked around the clock repairing systems. Sir, the crew needs rest, his first officer said quietly. The crew needs to win, Dong Hyun replied. We rest after we stop the swarm. Similar operations occurred across multiple systems. Human ships appeared without warning, struck hard and disappeared. The swarm's advantage in numbers meant nothing when they could not bring those numbers to bear. Lieutenant Eun-ji continued analyzing swarm communications from the Indomitable. She worked 18-hour shifts, surviving on stimulants and determination. Her ability to predict swarm movements had become critical to fleet operations. During one analysis session, she noticed something unusual. Swarm signals showed a distinct pattern emanating from deep in their territory, a central source coordinating all others. She brought her findings to Admiral Jae-sung. Sir, I think the swarm has a central intelligence, a queen mind that directs all the others. Every major tactical decision originates from these coordinates. She highlighted a system on the tactical map. Jae-sung studied the data. You are saying if we destroy this central intelligence, the entire swarm might collapse? It is possible, Eun-ji said carefully. Hive minds typically need coordination. Remove the coordinator and the rest become disorganized. Or they become more dangerous, Jae-sung said. Individual units acting on survival instinct. That is also possible, Eun-ji admitted. But right now the swarm is too coordinated, too efficient. We cannot win against an enemy that adapts this quickly. We need to disrupt their command structure. Jae-sung made a decision that would determine the war's outcome. Prepare operation plans for a deep strike. I want options for reaching this system and destroying whatever we find there. Meanwhile, Dr. Bora Shin worked with council scientists on biological weapons. The project disturbed her Orin colleagues. They found the concept of biological warfare morally reprehensible. Bora understood their concerns but did not share them. The swarm is a biological weapon itself. We fight fire with fire. She developed a viral agent that attacked swarm neural tissue. It would not kill them but would disrupt their coordination, make them slower, less efficient, give human and council forces an advantage. Testing required live swarm specimens. That meant capturing them alive. Commander Subin received the most dangerous assignment of her career. Take a Marine team, board a swarm command vessel. Capture a live command node. Return with it intact. Simple, Subin said when she received the orders. Her tone made it clear she knew how suicidal the mission was. She selected 50 Marines, volunteers only. She explained the mission clearly. Low chance of survival, high chance of dying horribly. Still, every Marine in her battalion volunteered. She had to turn people away. The assault ship approached a damaged swarm command vessel that human ships had crippled in a previous engagement. The bioship was still alive but could not jump away or fight effectively. Subin's team launched in armored pods. They crashed through the bioship's hull and began fighting immediately. The interior was nightmare fuel. Organic corridors that pulsed like intestines. Acid dripping from walls. Creatures bred specifically for killing defenders. Her Marines fought through hell. Private Jin Ho was grabbed by a creature and pulled into a side passage. His screams ended abruptly. Corporal Ari lost her arm to an acid spray but kept fighting. Sergeant Tae Young covered their advance with a heavy plasma gun until the heat melted his armor seals. Subin led from the front. She used a combination of combat training, tactical thinking, and pure stubbornness. When her rifle ran dry, she used her sidearm. When that failed, she used a combat knife. When the knife broke, she used her armored fists. They reached the command node. The thing was massive. A brain-like structure 3 meters across, pulsing with bioluminescent light. It was connected to the ship's nervous system by thick organic cables. "Plant the containment charges," Subin ordered. "We have 5 minutes." Her demo expert, a Marine named Young Ho, set up the cutting charges. The plan was to sever the node from the ship and seal it in a containment pod. Transporting a living swarm command unit was insanely dangerous, but they needed it intact for study. Swarm creatures attacked constantly. Subin's team formed a defensive circle. They burned through ammunition at an unsustainable rate. 5 Marines died protecting the demo expert. 3 more were wounded too badly to fight. "Charges ready," Young Ho shouted. "Blow it," Subin ordered. The explosion severed the command node. It fell free, twitching and spasming. The entire bioship shuddered. Systems began failing. The swarm creatures became disoriented. "Get the pod loaded. Move, move, move." Her remaining Marines hauled the containment pod with the command node inside. They fought their way back to the extraction point. More died. More were wounded. Subin herself took a claw strike across her helmet that cracked the faceplate. The assault ship retrieved them with seconds to spare. The bioship began to tear itself apart as they pulled away. Subin counted her survivors, 23 Marines out of 50. She had lost more than half her team, but they had the command node. Dr. Bora received the specimen and began immediate analysis. The command node was still alive, still trying to send signals to the swarm. She worked day and night dissecting its structure, understanding its function. What she discovered changed everything. "The command node is not individual," she explained to Admiral Jae-sung. "It is part of a network. All the nodes connect to something larger, something that coordinates the entire swarm across multiple star systems." "A queen mine," Jae-sung said, remembering Yoonji's analysis. "Yes," Bora confirmed. "And I know where it is. The neural patterns in this node all point to a single source. The same coordinates your lieutenant identified." Jae-sung looked at the star map. The target system was deep in swarm territory. Reaching it would require fighting through thousands of enemy ships. The fleet would take massive casualties, but if they succeeded, they could end the war. He called a meeting of all human commanders. Captain Minji, Captain Dong-hyun, Commander Hyun-soo, Commander Subin, Lieutenant Yoonji, and Dr. Bora, his best people. "We are going to kill the Queen," he told them. "One massive strike. Everything we have. It will be the most dangerous operation of this war. Many of us will not come back. But if we succeed, we save billions of lives." Nobody hesitated. Nobody questioned. "When do we leave?" Minji asked. 3 days, Jae-sung said. "We need to repair ships and resupply. After that, we go all inward, spread through the fleet." Every crew member knew what was coming. 10,000 swarm vessels protected the Queen world. The planet itself was a massive organic structure, pulsing with the neural energy of the hive mind that controlled the entire swarm, destroying. It would require reaching the surface through the most heavily defended system in known space, the combined human and council fleet assembled at the edge of the system. 300 ships total, against 10,000. The mathematics were simple and brutal. Admiral Jae-sung addressed the fleet from the bridge of the Indomitable. "Today we end this war. The swarm believes they are unstoppable. They believe we will break. They do not understand what humanity means, what our allies mean. We are here because we refuse to accept extinction. We refuse to surrender, and we absolutely refuse to let these creatures consume any more innocent lives." He paused, looking at his own crew. Young faces, old faces, people from Earth and Council worlds, all united in purpose. Many of us will die today. That is the reality we face, but our deaths will mean something. Every second we hold the line is another second for civilians to evacuate. Every swarm ship we destroy is one less threat to our homes. We go into this battle knowing the cost, and we pay it willingly. Captain Minji stood on the bridge of the Relentless, already repaired from previous damage. Her crew was ready. Her weapons were loaded. She thought about all the battles that had brought them here. "All fighters ready?" she asked her flight officer. "Ready, Captain. They know it is a one-way trip for most of them." "Make sure they know how proud I am," Minji said quietly. "Every single one." Captain Dong-hyun checked his strike group one final time. His ships were patched together with emergency repairs. His crews were exhausted, but their determination burned brighter than ever. Remember, he told his captains, we do not need to survive. We just need to succeed. Commander Subin prepared her Marine battalions for the ground assault. The plan called for landing directly on the Queen World's surface and fighting to the swarm's central neural complex. It was a suicide mission wearing a tactical plan as a disguise. Her Marines loaded into assault pods. They checked weapons. They made peace with their fate. One Marine, barely 20 years old, asked her a question. "Commander, are we really going to win?" Subin looked at the young man. She could lie. Make it easier. But he deserved truth. "I do not know if we will win," she said, "but I know we will fight, and sometimes that is enough." The fleet jumped into the system. Immediately the swarm responded. 10,000 bioships moved as one, a living wall between the attackers and the Queen World. The first wave hit the fleet like a hammer. Council ships took the brunt of the initial assault. Admiral Krevnos had volunteered his vessels for the most dangerous position. Lumari crystalline hulls shattered. Oran telepathic crews died screaming as their shared consciousness was torn apart. Nethri ships dissolved under acid weapons, but they held the line. Human ships poured through the gaps. They did not try to fight all 10,000 enemies. They targeted weak points, created chaos, forced the swarm to divide their attention. The Relentless led a fighter assault that lost 80% of its craft in the first 10 minutes. But those fighters cleared a path for the heavy cruisers. Captain Minji pushed her ship to maximum speed, weapons firing constantly. "Captain, shields are failing," her tactical officer shouted. "I know," Minji replied. "Keep firing!" "We are not stopping." A massive bioship targeted the Relentless. The swarm vessel dwarfed Minji's destroyer. Its weapons could crack her ship in half. She saw it coming and made a decision that would be remembered forever. "All power to engines," she ordered. "Arm every explosive we have." Set for proximity detonation. Her crew understood immediately. This was not an attack. This was a sacrifice. The Relentless accelerated directly at the bioship. Swarm weapons tore through the destroyer's hull. Decks exploded. Crew members died. But the ship kept going. Minji activated the shipwide communication. "It has been an honor serving with all of you." The Relentless struck the bioship at full speed. Every weapon on board detonated simultaneously. The explosion was visible from the other side of the system. The bioship was destroyed, so was the Relentless, but the path was clear. Admiral Jae Sung saw the sacrifice and felt his heart break, but he could not mourn yet. He would honor Minji by finishing what she started. All ships through the gap. Now, the fleet pushed forward. Casualties mounted. Ships died. People died. But they advanced. Captain Dong Hyun's strike group took horrific damage. 2 of his ships were completely destroyed. The others were barely functional. But they reached firing range of the Queen World. "All remaining vessels, bombardment pattern Delta," Dong Hyun ordered. "Hit them with everything: missiles, railguns, energy weapons. Kinetic strikes." Everything the strike group had left. The bombardment hammered the Queen World's surface defenses. Biological shields collapsed under the assault. "That is our cue," Commander Subin said to her Marines. "Pods away!" 500 assault pods launched from the surviving ships. They fell toward the planet like meteors. Swarm ground defenses destroyed half of them. The others crashed into the surface with brutal force. Subin's pod hit so hard her armor cracked. She kicked the door open and found herself in a living nightmare. The planet's surface was covered in organic structures. Creatures bred for war emerged from every opening. "Form up. Push forward," Subin ordered. Her Marines established a perimeter. They fought with every weapon they had. When ammunition ran out, they used melee weapons. When those broke, they used their fists. Private Jin-A died covering her squad's advance. Sergeant Myung-ho lasted 5 minutes before being overwhelmed. Lieutenant Chan-woo made it halfway to the objective before acid burned through his suit. Subin led the survivors deeper into the complex. They followed Dr. Bora's data, tracking the source of the Queen Mind's neural signals. Every step cost lives. Every corridor was a battle. She reached the central chamber with 23 Marines out of 500. The chamber was enormous. At its center floated a massive organic structure. The Queen Mind. It pulsed with bioluminescent patterns coordinating the entire swarm across light years of space. The Queen Mind spoke. Not with sound but directly into minds. All 23 Marines heard it. "You have lost. Surrender and I will grant quick death." Subin laughed. Blood dripped from wounds in her armor. She was exhausted, injured, surrounded by the bodies of her friends. "You do not understand humans," she said aloud. "We do not surrender. Ever." She activated the antimatter device her team had carried through hell. The timer showed 30 seconds. "All remaining Marines, evacuate now," Su-Bin ordered. "That is a direct command." Her Marines refused. They formed a defensive circle around her, protecting her even as she stayed behind. "Go," she screamed. "That is an order." "No, Commander," a young Marine said. "We finish this together." The swarm creatures rushed the chamber. Su-Bin and her Marines fought them off. 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds. The Queen Mind sent one final message to all swarm units across the galaxy. A scream of rage and defiance. Then nothing. The antimatter device detonated. The explosion consumed the central chamber, the Queen Mind, and everything within a kilometer radius. Commander Su-Bin and her 23 Marines died instantly. Admiral Jae-Sung felt the moment the Queen Mind died. Not psychically. He was not telepathic, but he saw it in the tactical display. Every swarm vessel stopped moving. 10,000 bioships simply drifted. Their coordination was gone. The hive mind that controlled them had been destroyed. Individual vessels tried to function but lacked direction. They fired randomly, moved without purpose. "All ships, press the attack," Jae-Sung ordered. "Take them down!" The fleet attacked the disorganized swarm. Without coordination, the bioships were just targets. Council and human ships methodically destroyed them. What had been an organized military force became scattered remnants. The battle lasted another 6 hours, but the outcome was decided. The swarm was broken. Jae-Sung sat in his command chair as the final reports came in. The cost had been terrible. 15 human ships destroyed, 3,000 crew members dead, countless council casualties. Commander Su-Bin and her entire ground team lost, but they had won. The war was over. 6 months later, the Galactic Council held a ceremony on their central world. Representatives from 40 species gathered to honor those who fought the swarm. Ambassador Taemin stood at the podium. He had survived the war and now served as the Council's liaison to humanity. He read the names of the fallen. So many names, so many lives given for a galaxy that had once feared them. Admiral Jae-Sung received the Council's highest honor. He accepted it with grace but felt no pride. Only grief for those who were not here to share it. Captain Dong-hyun survived and now taught human tactics at the Council Military Academy. Council species struggled to understand human strategies, but they tried. The galaxy had learned the value of unpredictability. Dr. Bora Shin continued her research, working with Council scientists on peaceful applications of biological technology. The weapons she created had saved the galaxy. Now she worked to ensure they were never needed again. Lieutenant Yoon-ji was promoted to commander and led a new intelligence division. Her ability to analyze and predict enemy behavior had been crucial to victory. Now she worked to prevent future threats. The Council created monuments on every major world.